This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Nearly a dozen Manitoba conservation officers are being redeployed to the U.S. border as a way to help secure the area. Adding boots to the ground is one attempt by the government to curry favor with U.S. President Donald Trump. But some are questioning if that's smart when the number of conservation officers has been depleting for years. CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
Appreciate you guys being here. Take some time out of your day.
Premier Wabkanews got reinforcements to beef up border security.
We're asking for them to be deployed into areas to help us just be that additional set of eyes and ears.
Conservation officers will focus on secondary roads and backcountry areas along the border. For the most part, they'll tell law enforcement agencies if they see anything amiss, like drug trafficking.
But if you see somebody trying to cross an open plain like this without gloves and hats on, then I would say then that would be a situation where there'd be that direct intervention.
Manitoba is assigning 11 conservation officers to this work, hailing from Winnipeg, Steinbach, Sprague, Virden, Boissevain, and Manitou. They usually protect wildlife and the environment.
We're asking them to do more for the time being.
But if conservation officers now have to patrol the border, they'll have less time for everything else they're supposed to do.
We're forming other gaps within the system by filling this gap with some conservation officers. There was no announcement today as far as a plan to hire new conservation officers.
Union President Kyle Ross has the same concerns because there's a high vacancy rate, but he sees value in boosting security.
And that's unfortunate where we're prioritizing the border over their regular duties, over our environment, but sometimes those things need to happen.
Ottawa has already provided drones, Black Hawk helicopters, and more police for the border. Towns like Emerson appreciate the measures. Residents worry Trump's policies will lead more people to sneak across.
In a desperate situation, bad things can sometimes happen.
The Premier said he doesn't know how long conservation officers will help with border security, but he says it's an important response Manitoba can take now to satisfy the U.S. president.
That was CBC's Ian Fraze. Well, a hub for Winnipeg's Filipino community is concerned about a spike in vandalism in recent weeks. The incidents have been damaging a space in North Point Douglas and scaring people away. CBC's Zubina Ahmed reports.
These are 2 glass windows that we have, and now it's boarded. Chain link fence has been cut open.
Ada Champagne is the chair of the Filipino Seniors Group of Winnipeg. The not-for-profit has been operating a building in North Point Douglas since the 1980s. It rents the space to tenants for community programming. Recent incidents of vandalism have her concerned.
I fear that people will be scared to come into this neighborhood. And that's what we don't want to do, because we love this place, we love this community. You can see it's broken. The connection and the wiring is broken.
Champagne says the building was vandalized just before Christmas and once again last week. She says this building has many good memories for not only Filipino seniors, but also for younger generations.
We're trying our very best to maintain the facility for our community. And with the vandalism costing us a lot of money, it's not going to be able to sustain if this goes on and on.
The building also relies on bookings to pay insurance bills and general maintenance. The Saviour Christian Church has been renting this building for Sunday service. The pastor, Rodrigo Crispin, says he would like to see more police presence in the area after the spike in vandalism.
It's very alarming, but we are hoping that our community, our police will have a daily or routine on patrolling this area.
Champagne hopes more foot patrols around the neighborhood could improve security. She will also have new security cameras installed after the previous ones were smashed. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The boss of Manitoba Public Insurance says the corporation is forging ahead with the massive technology upgrade it paused last year. The much-maligned Project Nova has been plagued with issues. The CBC's Ian Fraze explains.
One of Manitoba Public Insurance's biggest projects has had a bumpy ride. That's why last year, it pumped the brakes.
We took a pause. We didn't want to continue because we have not been successful, I'll say, thus far.
MPI's CEO was speaking at Thursday's Legislative Committee about Project Nova, a technology upgrade letting customers do more of their auto insurance online. The cost was first estimated at $86 million. Then its budget more than tripled. The upgrades were supposed to be finished this spring, but it's half done and part of it was riddled with defects.
We did not want to blindly spend additional funds without truly understanding what is that we're building, what are the needs, and how are we going to deliver this.
Satvir Jatana says planning work for the future of Project Nova is underway. Wayne Balkin is with the Progressive Conservatives.
I'm glad to hear that you won't overcommit and underdeliver, which I've seen this trend with this government.
In recent years, MPI has been plagued by issues. Project Nova's soaring costs and a planned hiring spree led the former PC government in 2023 to order an external review. It found MPI top-heavy and confusion around the Crown's direction. Matt Weeb is with the NDP government.
Nova was an example of the mismanagement that the former government really wrought on MPI and thus on Manitobans.
Jatana says timelines and future costs will be revealed in the months ahead. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg's South Sudanese community is banding together to call for justice as violence and tensions continue to rise in Sudan. It comes after the alleged deaths of civilians and refugees in that country at the hands of the military. As CBC's Santiago Arias reports, they're pushing Manitoba to stand up and condemn the attacks.
Sounds of hope and fate. A community scarred by the war stands together, praying for those they left behind in South Sudan.
We call Inshallah. That means God is willing to whatever that happened. So that's what we rely on.
Abrek Manigan fled to Canada during the Second Sudanese War in the 1990s. She has siblings still living in South Sudan, a country on the doorstep of war. Without knowing if they're safe, she says it's hard for her to fall asleep at night.
You could hear some gun shot on the phone when you're speaking with your family back home. So it is a worrisome for all of us who are here. We're not happy. We are very stressed. What's going on?
Violent riots have erupted in the country in recent weeks. The demonstrations began after reports of South Sudanese civilians being allegedly killed in Sudan by the country's army.
To kill vulnerable people who are not fighting you. You just kill them simply because they are South Sudanese. This is not acceptable.
For almost 2 years, Sudan has been in a civil war, plunging the country into a humanitarian crisis. Video allegedly showing the killing of women and refugees from South Sudan in early January has been shared on social media.
We are demanding justice. We are demanding accountability. We wanted to raise awareness. This thing needs to stop.
Canada has condemned the war for what it called gross human rights violations. But the local South Sudanese community wants Manitoba to do the same, including over the recent reported killings.
If Sudanese civilians and South Sudanese civilians are being targeted and killed, they need to stop. And it cannot stop itself alone. It has to be condemned by the world.
Until a resolution comes, Marian says she will keep holding on to her faith, praying for her motherland. Something else she says everyday Manitobans can do to help. Santiago Arias, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Time now for our first check on your forecast for the week, and weather specialist Ethan Williams is in. Ethan.
Well, thanks, Brittany. A nice warm day for southern Manitoba. Temperatures jumping above the freezing mark, but you can really see where the cold front has moved in through the day Monday, and some temperatures up north barely getting above -10 or even -20 in some cases. And as that front moves in, a little bit of some cloud cover beginning to move through southern sections of Manitoba, but we are watching this band of cloud which is moving into the north, and that is going to be giving much of our province a good shot of some snow as we head overnight Monday into Tuesday. So what that means is that overnight in Winnipeg, we're going to see a little bit of snow, and by the morning hours on Tuesday, the winds are going to pick up, and that means a little bit of blowing snow is possible. By the noon hour, though, skies will clear, but those winds going to stay with us. But look at that, a temperature of 3 degrees by the noon hour. Still nice as we head into the afternoon, but windy, and our next little system starting to move in through the afternoon could bring us some flurries, or maybe even, Brittany, a little bit of some rain. I'll let you know how much snow is on the way coming up.
Thanks, Ethan. Well, do you want to build a snowman? Hundreds of kids came out over the weekend for their shot of playing Elsa or Anna in an upcoming production of the hit Frozen. We'll introduce you after the break. This is Manitoba.
And this is Manitoba on your smart TV, because CBC News is now streaming local. Get local headlines, weather, and community notices, plus newscasts and live programming on your favorite connected device, all for free. It's called the CBC News Manitoba streaming channel. See your community on your connected TV and mobile devices. CBC News Manitoba, your local news streaming channel, now available.
This place, every corner of Manitoba has its own story. Every community has a tale to tell.
And CBC is here to share them.
Everywhere you are.
In every way we can.
Watching, listening, reading, streaming.
Sharing. CBC, telling Manitoba's story wherever you are.
A Winnipeg theatre group has been overwhelmed by the response to its latest casting call. Hundreds of kids are auditioning for Rainbow Stage's first ever production of Disney's Frozen. Now, our cameras weren't allowed in the auditions, but over the weekend, the CBC's Felicia Adam caught up with some aspiring young actors vying for a lead role.
A group audition is underway, singing and dancing to a song from a timeless classic that almost everyone knows.
I really love Frozen. I've been watching it again since I was really little, so it definitely holds a place in my heart for being one of my favorite childhood movies.
When I first saw Frozen at 6 months old, I really liked it.
I was pretty nervous at first when I realized how many people were going to be in there with me, but overall it went really well and I had a lot of fun.
Let it go, let it go. Frozen came out more than a decade ago in 2013. It tells a story of a bond between two sisters and a kingdom stuck in winter.
How long did you have to practice for?
Since I was 3, because I just kept singing it over and over. It annoyed my mom.
Artistic director Carson Natras says he's proud of the local talent pool. He expected 100 kids to audition, but got 300.
We're going to hear this song over 300 times, and it has yet to get old.
And if you thought Elsa was the story's main character, you can let it go. Most have their heart set on her sister.
Anna's just such a fun, energetic, perfect character.
She is a very, 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 very interesting person. She's an extrovert, and I like the extroverts.
I like that she loves her sister very much, and she wants to play with her and wants to get together and make the sister happy.
What do you find most magical about Anna?
Trying to get her sister to turn the awful winter back to a normal season.
It's the first time Frozen has ever played in Winnipeg, and they're looking for someone who brings that spark to the character.
It's just every single one is a gem, and it's going to be one of the hardest decisions to make. I know how much courage it takes, and I'm just so impressed. I'm their biggest fan.
But it's courage that goes beyond the audition room.
The message that Anna kind of gives out is that even if you don't have magical powers and you're just a normal person, you can do anything you want.
They did great!
Winnipeggers can watch Frozen at Rainbow Stage in August. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Canadian farm supply and hardware retailer Peavey Mart plans to close its stores in Manitoba. The chain announced last week it will close stores in Ontario and Nova Scotia. Today, Manitoba stores notified customers they too will close within the next few months. The chain has 2 stores in Winnipeg and 1 each in Brandon, Winkler and Steinbach. CBC News spoke to customers outside the Nairn Avenue location in Winnipeg.
It's not a very good thing if that is going to be the case there. It's good for the farmers, good location for that, good supply. But yeah, for the agricultural sector, it's not so good, eh?
Peavey Mart started in Dawson Creek, BC. Its headquarters are now in Red Deer, Alberta. Brandon property owners are getting a 6.9% tax increase this year. That's almost 5% less than projected. A major chunk of the budget was buying and refurbishing city fleet vehicles to the tune of more than $18 million. One councillor says he would have cut more and spread out the cost increases.
Kind of my purpose wasn't so much about reducing kind of the expenses, but kind of moving them out into multiple years a little bit more.
The projected budget for 2026 includes an even higher tax rate, height of nearly 17%. The final section of the Nestawaya River Trail has opened to the public over the weekend. People can now enjoy the trail's full 6-kilometer length. It links Hugo Docks on the Assiniboine River to Churchill Drive on the Red River. New warming huts have also been moved onto the ice and scattered across the trail. Well, it was a gorgeous few days in the southern part of the province. Hopefully you all had a chance to get outdoors, but we know with these temperatures hovering around the freezing mark, we risk other weather, namely snow. Riley's off this week, and filling in is Ethan Williams. Ethan.
Well, Brittany, we are watching a snowfall warning, which is in place for far northwestern Manitoba as well as far northeastern Saskatchewan. And as we kind of go through Monday night here into Tuesday, upwards of 10 centimeters in just a few hours is possible here. So some pretty heavy amounts falling pretty quickly. That's not the only area of the province, though, that's going to be getting snowfall. I think as this low pressure system sort of begins to trundle its way eastward, that snow will spread south pretty quickly as we head into early Tuesday morning. Maybe by midnight, 1 a.m. we could even see that extending into around the Winnipeg area and the Red River Valley and through much of the Inner Lake. It moves out pretty quickly, though, and I think by Tuesday afternoon we're left with some clearing skies, although we'll watch the frontal system in behind this, which will bring a band of maybe a little bit of some wet snow or even some mixing. Some rain could be in there as well, hitting the Winnipeg area and much of southern Manitoba by mid-afternoon. But high pressure clears that out as we head into Wednesday overnight. But then that moves away, and we're watching yet another system which will be moving in as we head into Thursday, which will spill some snow into kind of similar regions as we head through the afternoon into Wednesday and possibly into a bit of Thursday as well. So the first round of snowfall, I think, again, it's kind of in that area from Lac Brochet down toward Norway House, Cross Lake, over to Little Grand Rapids, upwards of 10 centimeters. You see amounts are dropping off pretty quickly here, including in the Winnipeg area. I don't think we're in for all that much snow. That next system going to add a few more centimeters through northern sections of the Inner Lake as we head into Thursday. But the winds are going to be a bit of an issue with this as well. I think we'll start to see those pick up tomorrow, especially in the Winnipeg area, gusting upwards of 50, maybe 60 kilometers an hour. But high pressure will start to calm those down as we get over the next couple of days. Well, the snow is no problem for Jack. He's 5 months old, and he really seems to enjoy it. We want to thank Marin for sending in that photo of Jack. And, well, he'll have a little bit of snow to contend with, but not too much as we get into the afternoon. Early look at our 7-day forecast here shows that, again, will be windy as we get through Tuesday with those warm temperatures. Cloud cover building back in as we get into Wednesday. The cold front from that system going to drop temperatures a little bit, but then we're back to near freezing conditions and back into the sunshine as we head into Thursday, Brittany.
We have more to come after the break. Stay with us. Holocaust survivors and world leaders have gathered in Poland to mark the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. The Nazis murdered more than 1 million people, mostly Jews, at the concentration camp during the Second World War. Evan Dyer has more on the somber memorial.
80 years after liberation, the ranks of the survivors are thinner. And there's a sense that this will be the last major anniversary with any significant presence of people who survived Auschwitz. People like Miriam Ziegler, seen here on the day of liberation, who traveled to Poland from her home in Toronto.
I had a terrible day on Saturday going back to Auschwitz, seeing where I was separated from my family, from my mother and father and my aunt.
These grounds were the site of the largest Nazi concentration and extermination camp. Over nearly 4 years, more than 1 million men, women and children, the majority Jewish, were murdered here.
I had to honor the people that had died there, that had no families. And the same, my family perished there. And to me, God left me. He left me for a reason. That's the way I feel.
The Soviet Red Army lost over 200 men killed in the battle to liberate the camp. The Russians were once honored guests at these events. The return of war to this region, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine nearly 3 years ago, led the Auschwitz-Birkenau Foundation to ban Vladimir Putin from this site. But Volodymyr Zelensky, the Jewish president of neighboring Ukraine, whose own family lost members in the Holocaust, traveled secretly to be here, among more than 30 heads of state and government. The message of never again, some said, felt particularly urgent. Dr. Leon Weintraub, who survived Auschwitz but lost his mother, said he was grieved to see the rise of a new far right and appealed to his audience to take seriously what the enemies of democracy preach. They really seek to implement those slogans, he warned. That's why many survivors say they feel a need to keep talking and teaching about what happened here.
If you don't nip them in the buds at the start when this happens, it's going to spread as we see now it is spreading. It's a curse.
50 survivors attended this commemoration compared to more than 300 a decade ago. Those who cheated death at this extermination camp are now approaching the end of their natural lives. And the message they sent today was, don't forget what happened here. Evan Dyer, CBC News at Auschwitz-Birkenau.
Ceremonies across Canada are marking this Holocaust Remembrance Day in memory of the 6 million victims. And survivors living in Canada are sharing their stories to highlight why it's important to remember the horrors of the past. Sarah Levitt has more.
I think every survivor's duty is to do that.
The duty, George Reinitz says, to tell their story. The Holocaust survivor was just 12 years old when his family was taken to Auschwitz. Separated from his mother and sister on the first day, he never saw them again. His father, also murdered.
I'm alone, I'm still 12 years old.
Now 93, the Montrealer has spent much of his life sharing accounts of his ordeal in the concentration camp and of all he lost.
And I think it's more important today than ever, because there's still a hate and racism, and I never thought it's going to come back.
It's the 80th anniversary of liberation.
Across Canada, efforts are ongoing to ensure the Holocaust is not forgotten. A group of grade 6 students take in testimony from the daughter of a Holocaust survivor.
My dad was number 71572, my grandfather number 71595, and from that point forward they were no longer a human being with an individual name and identity, they were simply a number in the Nazi regime.
Words that stick for some.
People in the world, even though you didn't do anything to hurt anybody else, some people are just so ruthless that they don't care.
It's important to learn so we can learn from our mistakes. There has been a lot of hate in the world recently, which is not good. So we have to learn more to love each other.
Something on display by those who braved the cold at the National Holocaust Monument in Ottawa.
Together, let us build the world where Auschwitz remains only a historical symbol and not a returning reality.
A prayer for peace, as important now as it was 80 years ago. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
After a weekend showdown with the Trump administration, including a threat of punishing tariffs, Colombia says it will accept American military flights carrying deported migrants. As Kate Fisher reports, the White House is signaling it as the new U.S. president's hardline approach to immigration.
When Colombia refused to let U.S. military planes carrying its deported citizens land, with President Gustavo Petro objecting to the use of shackles and handcuffs on detainees, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to put a 25% tariff on all Colombian imports into the U.S. Now, America is Colombia's biggest trading partner, and a social media spat erupted between the two countries' leaders. President Trump said that tariffs will be raised to 50% in a week, as well as threatening travel curbs and other unspecified sanctions. As Colombia agreed to back down, the White House claimed a victory for the Trump administration's uncompromising immigration policies, saying, "Today's events make clear to the world that America is respected again." At the same time, the Trump administration launched sweeping immigration raids in cities across the US. Nearly 1,000 people were arrested, according to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. White House border czar Tom Homan said that this was just the beginning.
Right now it's concentrating public safety threats, national security threats. That's a smaller population. So we're going to do this on priority base, as President Trump's promised, but as that aperture opens, there'll be more arrests nationwide. The message needs to be clear. There's consequences for entering a country illegally.
But there was huge concern about the raids in Democratic-run cities like Chicago.
They're going after people who are law-abiding, who are holding down jobs, who have families here, who may have been here for a decade or 2 decades, and they're often our neighbors and our friends.
The weekend's events have shown how far President Trump is prepared to go to implement his campaign promises, and it's demonstrated to other countries the price of resisting migrant repatriations. Kate Fisher for CBC News, Washington.
Tens of thousands of Palestinians are making their way home to northern Gaza, back to what's left of their communities after 15 months of war. Israel opened the key route to the north after a hostage dispute with Hamas was resolved, and the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas remains in place. Chris Brown has the latest from Jerusalem.
In one of the most significant developments of this tenuous ceasefire, Israel removed barricades and hundreds of thousands of uprooted Palestinians streamed into Gaza's north. Sarah Reddy said it was an indescribable feeling of happiness mixed with sadness as she brought along a cat she couldn't leave behind, hoping for a new beginning. Along the way, there were emotional reunions of those who stayed behind, reconnecting with others who fled after more than a year. Those fortunate to have transportation were searched by private security guards for weapons at checkpoints before being allowed through. I'm excited, said Faraz Maqdad, even though I've lost people and my home in the war. Northern Gaza communities such as Jabalia and Gaza City suffered some of the worst destruction. 3/4 of the buildings are rubble, so many people will simply go from sleeping in a tent in the south to another in the north. But coming a day after Donald Trump publicly mused about cleaning out Gaza of Palestinians and moving them to neighboring countries, some said it demonstrated resilience. Ahmed Shakara said, "It's our land, it's where we were born, it's where we were raised." Hamas remains in control, though, and there was video of its fighters welcoming people back.
Some business people,
This Israeli military historian says unless the militant group is replaced, Gaza has no future.
I don't see anybody investing in reconstruction now as long as Hamas will be in power. Israel has to take care to keep that it will actually be the case.
The path north was unblocked after a deal was struck with Hamas over hostage Arbel Yahoud, whose captors released a proof-of-life video. She will now be freed Thursday, along with 2 others and 3 more hostages Saturday. Many fear the ceasefire won't last long enough to return all the captives, as some families in this first round received upsetting news.
25 of our hostages are alive and 8 have been killed by Hamas.
Who is dead and who is alive has not been made public, creating agonizing moments of hope and dread in the coming days. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
A city in the Democratic Republic of Congo is the scene of intense fighting between government troops and rebels. The rebels made rapid advances against the army on Sunday and are now reportedly patrolling the main streets of Goma in the eastern part of the country. These are scenes from the border post between Goma and neighboring Rwanda. Hundreds of displaced people are fleeing the city by foot. In the past 4 years, the rebels have taken control of large parts of the DRC. The Congolese government has accused Rwanda of sending its troops over the border to support the rebels. Rwanda, in turn, has accused Congolese authorities of supporting militias trying to topple the Rwandan government. Pickleball has gained a lot of popularity in recent years, and now a Utah-based franchise wants to open some indoor courts in Canada and here in Manitoba. That story after the break. This is Manitoba. And this is Manitoba on your smart TV, because CBC News is now streaming local. Local news and weather on your connected TV or favorite device. CBC News Manitoba, streaming now. An indoor pickleball franchise based in Utah has ambitious plans for expanding into Canada, and Manitoba is on the list. The company has made inroads on this side of the border, but still faces some serious challenges. CBC's Paula Duhatschik explains.
Even at noon on a Tuesday, the Calgary Pickleball Center is full.
The supply is not enough to meet the demands.
Clearly, pickleball is popular, and now an American company has set its sights on the Canadian market. It wants to open a network of pickleball franchises in every city in the country.
With our expansive growth through the U.S., it's a natural business move to come north.
The company was recently in Toronto, making its pitch to potential franchise owners.
We recognize the need to have the facility in our area. We have very limited real pickleball courts in Kitchener-Waterloo. Our only stumbling block right now is there's limited space that is available to accommodate the requirements of what we need to set up a pickler in town.
That's a common problem. To build a facility, you need a big space with high ceilings. Commercial real estate firm CBRE says Canada just doesn't have that much empty real estate that fits the bill.
You can be quote unquote hungry for space, but if there's no food on the table, you're as hungry as you want, there's nothing to eat. So the issue here is it's a supply constraint.
Back in Alberta, the Calgary Pickleball Center says it had a similar problem. It eventually opened in an empty HVAC supply shop.
Finding the space is a tough one. Finding space is a really tricky one if you're not going to build it yourself.
The pickler says it understands Canada is a different beast.
The U.S. is way overdeveloped in comparison to Canada, right? So we're going to have to be very strategic on our real estate moves.
Still, he's optimistic. The company has just signed an offer to lease its first Canadian location in Winnipeg. Paula Duhatschik, CBC News, Calgary.
Well, not quite warm enough to get outside for pickleball, but this has been above seasonal temperatures. Let's bring in Ethan Williams now for a look at the forecast. Ethan.
Well, our jet stream pattern has been bringing us some above seasonal weather these past couple of days. You can see that here, causing some troughing over northwestern Ontario and northern Quebec. But for southern Manitoba, at least, it's been bringing some nice warm temperatures as we remain to the south of that jet stream. To the north, though, you can see there on the other side of the jet stream, and that means over these next few days, as that continues to sink southward, we'll continue to see some cold air moving into the north, while Winnipeg, and southern sections of Manitoba remain under some nice above seasonal conditions. But that includes tonight as well, where our temperatures will kind of be dropping back into that -5 to -10 range. Again, for especially the Inner Lake and for eastern sections of southern Manitoba, we are looking at a little bit of snow moving in. I don't think it's going to be much, though, moving through the Winnipeg area, maybe a centimeter or two as we go into the overnight hours. The majority of that snow, as I mentioned, is going to be in areas under the snowfall warning. So around Lynn Lake and Brochet down to Puckatawagan, we are seeing that snow moving in as we head overnight, and that continues to move its way southeastward as we head into Tuesday morning. Much of it by that point, I think by 7 o'clock Tuesday morning, will be starting to move into northern sections of the Inner Lake, and then it's out of here as we get into the afternoon. But some bitterly cold temperatures remain in the far north, where we're getting some clearing skies down closer to -30 in that part of the province, even as we head into the afternoon. But I think even in sections of the Inner Lake or northern sections of the Inner Lake, we should be seeing a little bit of some clearing as we get into the afternoon hours Tuesday. For southern Manitoba, a little bit of that snow makes its way southward as we get into the early morning hours on Tuesday. By the noon hour, that is causing some increasing cloudiness, and that we'll also start to see the winds pick up through southern Manitoba as that system moves through. And then, of course, the snow moving into the Winnipeg area and much of the Red River Valley by the time we get to the drive home Tuesday. Again, not too much in the way of a snowfall accumulation there from that. Winds gusting upwards of maybe 50 to 60 kilometers an hour as we get into the afternoon with those brisk northwest winds, but our temperatures staying fairly seasonal. Many of us hanging around the freezing mark. Some of us closer to the northwestern Ontario border there could see those dropping back a bit. And with those warm temperatures, that snow could be mixing a bit with rain. And I'll have a look at your full 7-day forecast, Brittany, coming up.
Thanks, Ethan. Veteran linebacker Adam Bighill will not be suiting up for the Blue and Gold this year. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers announced last week they are not re-signing the 36-year-old. He's been a fan favorite here in Winnipeg, and Adam joins me now. Adam, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
First off, I want to talk a little bit about how you found out about the news. Was this unexpected, or how did it come about for you?
Well, I mean, you know, as we have an aging roster with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, if you want to call it that. We have a lot of, productive veterans that have been around for a reason. I just, you always realize that at some point the club's going to have to start winding that down. With me getting injured, it might, I just figured it might be an easy thing for them to do, to be able to start knocking one off the list and, start building younger, which I understand. So I realize there's a realistic possibility, whether I think it's a bad decision or not, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I know I can still help the club, but I understand that they have to go in a different direction. So it's not, it didn't take me by surprise. I'm not mad. I've loved my time here in Winnipeg. It's just unfortunate that this wasn't in the cards for me to be able to be playing at home in a Grey Cup here in Winnipeg. But when one door closes, another one opens, and there's nothing to do but be positive about the situation. And once again, had a great time here in Winnipeg, and the organization's been really good to me.
Exactly what you're saying and how you're handling this, I think, is one of the reasons why you've been such a fan favorite here. And when the news broke, you took to social media to share a really heartfelt message to the fans, thanking them for all of their support. What has this team and really this city meant to you?
Well, it's been amazing. It's been the most fun I've had playing professional football has been here in Winnipeg. And when I came here, I didn't know what to expect. My family didn't know what to expect. And, when we used to come to play in Winnipeg when I was in BC, it always happened to be in October. It was always cold and gray and dark, and I just didn't have a good sense of what Winnipeg was. Never enjoyed it. And then when we came here to play, and man, was it, Winnipeg's one of the best kept secrets, that's for sure. And so, Winnipeg's home now. No matter what happens, this is our home. I've been building a business here in Winnipeg. The fans have been a huge part of that. The community has been a huge part of that, and we've really enjoyed ourselves. And so, it grew on us, and like I said, Winnipeg's home.
I love the way you put that. It's kind of a little secret here in Winnipeg that so many people like to think of that. As you said, you and your wife and your kids have made Winnipeg your year-round home, so you are planning on staying here?
Yeah, no, I mean, no matter what happens with me football going forward, I mean, our family is rooted here. My business is based here, and so for those reasons, we don't want to disrupt that. I mean, the kids are now, in school and got sports and are doing well, and we don't want to disrupt that. And but in terms of playing football still, I'll have to weigh options of potentially playing somewhere else, this season.
Last season ended for you quite abruptly with a major knee injury in August. Can you tell us how your recovery is going?
Yeah, I've never had any knee injuries. It's foreign to me to be able to have to deal with such a major injury like this. But the rehab's going really well. Based on the metrics around normal return to rehab process, I think I'm a bit ahead of schedule in terms of the things I'm doing right now, which is great. And I'm at the point now, everything I'm doing is in the gym. It's just training, which is I normally do anyway. So it's just getting, my knee back to full capacity and full confidence. And it's going really well. So no complaints there. And, this is part of the off season I really enjoy, which is the training aspect.
I know you did get the chance to hoist that Grey Cup here in front of the fans at home, bring it back here. Any regrets of things that you didn't get to get done with the Bombers?
Well, I mean, honestly, right, like you go to 5 Grey Cups in a row, you'd like to say that, we won 5 in a row and we're part of just, utter, history making, legacy building kind of conversations. And by no means are we out of that conversation, but, I'd like to have a few more rings on my fingers for sure from our efforts over the last few years. But no regrets. I mean, this, like I said, it's been the most fun I had playing professional football here in Winnipeg. The organization takes good care of their players, from the top down. Everything they do is about making sure the players have everything they need to be the best they can be, and look after the families. They do a good job of making sure families are welcomed and taken care of as well. So, there's no regrets. It's been awesome. It's been amazing. I'm truly thankful. So yeah, no real regrets.
Well, I know I speak on behalf of many people here by thanking you for everything you did, and I know the fans are going to miss you. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Still ahead, Ethan Williams is back with a last check on our forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. New indoor artwork in London is allowing visitors to get a good look at the sun. The installation is named Helios for the ancient Greek and Roman sun god. It's in the painted hall at the Old Royal Navy College, which some call the Sistine Chapel of the UK. This model measures 23 feet in diameter. For scale, each centimetre of the surface represents 200 kilometres on the sun. The work by British artist Luke Jarram uses actual photos and NASA observations.
Well, after our windy and warmer day Tuesday, we'll see temperatures drop a bit into Wednesday as the cloud cover increases. And then our temperatures will take a more substantial dive as we head into the weekend. Possibility of some flurries for Saturday and Sunday as the winds start to pick up. And then you notice those temperatures really begin to drop as well. Overnight lows drop back down into the minus double digits to end out the work week. And then we are well down to the minus 20s as we get into the weekend. And with the wind, that'll likely be feeling into the minus 30s, especially as we head overnight. Monday, minus 20, likely going to be one of the coldest days of next week. So enjoy the warmer weather while it lasts, Brittany, and even though that might be bringing some wind along with it.
Oh, thanks, Ethan. Well, who says you can't make new friends in winter? One Montrealer did, a little hitchhiker he found in a grocery bag from California. His new friend/roommate's long hop from home is today's Daily Lift.
First, I was a little bit shocked. Normally, I would have been like, oh, I would just like flush her down the toilet or throw her in the garbage, but I was thinking maybe this is like a good opportunity to save something or do something good. I just assumed she was a she. Apparently, it's a male because it does those little mating calls from time to time.
Morgan de Longchamp bought a small aquarium for the amphibian he named Tony Soprano. He feeds him little insects and says his health has improved by leaps and bounds over the past 3 weeks since he found him in a bag of celery. According to a biologist, Tony is likely a male Pacific tree frog native from the West Coast. Experts recommend reporting something like this to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and not eating contaminated food. Now, he plans to keep the frog as a pet throughout the winter and shelter him from the cold. Well, get outside if you have a chance over the next few days because it is getting colder. Stay safe, stay warm. I'll see you back here tomorrow.